the videos play because we're on TV right now.
TV6 is not indicating that we are on the air.
So we don't have a quorum yet.
Well, I'm looking at channel 406 and it looks like we're on the air.
We are now on the air.
Thank you.
I just want to wait a second more to see if because we don't have a quorum that I can see. Are all the panelists being shown?
The current directors we have are Director Hopkins, Director Horton, Director Mukhopadhyay, Director Garth Hoffner, Director Stevens, and Director Tibbetts, and yourself,
Okay.
President.
Can I see all of them, Grant? The way it's set up now, I can only see Yvonne, Cheryl, and Sue, and Dawn.
It looks like everybody's showing their cameras except for Director Tibbetts for the directors. There is a option at the upper right hand screen where it says view. You can go down and you select gallery view, and then you can see everyone.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you. Well, it is 9:32, and Grant says we're on the air. The regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, this Tuesday, May 4th, 2021, 9:30, Laguna Woods, California, will now call the meeting to order. So Director Millman, will you lead the Pledge of Allegiance? Is she here?
Director Millman is not present.
Okay. So Yvonne, she's got the flag. So I'll have her lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all. I think I said that wrong.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I acknowledge the media. Excuse me. So the next item is the approval of the agenda. And we do have, and I hope everybody got the new agenda that was sent to us in the mail this morning. All the board members did? Okay. So based upon that, I'm assuming that there are no further additions to the agenda. And if there are no further additions to the agenda, are there any objections? So if there are no objections, then the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. So the next item is the approval of the minutes of March 25th, 2021, agenda prep opening meeting. Are there any objections Excuse me. Any objections to the agenda prep open meeting? So if there are no objections, excuse me, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. The next is the approval of the minutes of April 6th, 2021, regular open meeting. Are there any objections to the April 6th, 2021 minutes? If there are no objections, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you. So the next item is report of the chair, and I really was thinking about this a lot, but I thought I would talk about the meeting at the City Hall of Laguna Woods. And I'm not in Laguna Woods, it's Laguna Hills, okay? And the meeting was about the developer who is redeveloping the Laguna Hills Mall. So much to my surprise, they are calling themselves the Villages. The name of the development is the Village of Laguna Hills. So how confusing is that to Laguna Woods Village? They plan to build over a 20-year span, 1,500 apartments, office space, retail, movie theater, hotel, and park. And if you really want to see what they're doing, you can Google Village of Laguna Woods and it'll come up. You can see a video of all of what they're doing. But I think the most disappointing news was the lack of the traffic study. Otero Road is the access to the freeway for Laguna Woods Village 18,000 residents who will need to go to La Paz or Oso for the entire, to enter the freeway when the project is built out. Then the question is, do we really need office buildings in this area when we have so many empty offices already and more are being developed close by? They're having their next meeting on June 24th. So in addition to this, I talked to one of the city councilors, and today they must agree to the state's demand to add 917 houses to any development that takes place in this city. So the city council is saying, be aware that any new construction will trigger this requirement even on private property. And I asked, what can we do about it? And the request was, or the remark was, to public forum at the city council meetings and speak up in regards to both of these items because the project, for the Laguna Hills Mall is connected to also this requirement for 917 new houses in Laguna Woods Village. So I just wanted to make people aware of it, and I know that a lot of us won't be here in 20 years, but definitely can impact us. So the next item is the CEO report. So Jeff Parker, will you go ahead?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, President Carpenter, and to the boards. Hope everybody's well. I have just a couple of updates I wanted to provide to you and those watching. First off, with regards to COVID numbers and looking at that issue, some very positive information. In Orange County, the numbers have continued to trend downward. Yesterday's numbers reporting today, we only had 95 hospitalization cases in Orange County, with only 21 of those cases being ICU. That is a very, very low number, and the lowest number that I think we've seen since obviously the pandemic started a year ago. So that's very, very positive news, because that's one of the key factors in any county moving into the next color tier, which we're heading towards that yellow tier, and I'll mention that in just a minute. There were no reported deaths yesterday. Again, very positive news with regards to that. And only 55 cases reported, even though there were over 5,000 tests, or right at 5,000 tests done. They've been averaging around 7,500 tests on a daily basis, and the numbers have been in the 55 to 100 cases on a daily basis. So again, trending downward. And what that really means is when we get into the major trends, there are three that they categorize, which are critical to the next phase. We are now, Orange County is now in the yellow phase with regards to two of those categories. So all we need is the third one, and then we can move into the yellow. We are 2.6 per 100,000 cases. We need to get to 2 on that, but we are trending in that direction, so that's good. And then with regards to the other two categories, we are both in the yellow category already, which is a below 2% in that efficiency category. So those two are really positive. If we can get our cases down to below 2, we'll be in the yellow category. Dialogue already occurring about, because of the vaccination numbers, that LA may be moving towards the yellow category. So I would anticipate in the next week to 2 weeks at the most, we would be doing the same thing in orange. What that will allow us to do is add additional capacity within our operations that we're doing right now. So in other words, take our outdoor classes or even our indoor classes, we will be able to handle more capacity. We'll go from 25% to 50% right now in the afternoons and mornings with regards to examples of wood shop or the ceramics. There's only the availability of 11 people that can be in there because of social distancing and the requirement. We'd be able to double that size with regards to our activity. So we're gearing up. Recreation is in the process of hiring additional part-time recreation people so that we can gear up towards what I think will be the eventual reopening of our facilities without restrictions other than mask and social distancing. And if the governor meets his time frame of June 15th that week to have everything go green, I would anticipate that we would be hopefully our hiring practice going well. We would be able to get back into what we call semi-normal capacity with regards to our clubhouses and everything come the beginning of July once we get the go from the state and once we get the hiring and people in place and get them trained and everything. So all positive, all looking forward to more capacity and more openings coming down the road. And we'll keep you posted. Obviously, we'll do special press releases and TV6 to keep everybody up to speed as when these things are going to actually occur once we get notice from the state and from the county. The other thing I wanted to mention, which is real important to all of us, is we're in the midst of our budget process, and we have sent out a tentative budget calendar for GRF and United and Third, and of course the GRF Business Planning Committee, which is the all of the presidents and treasurers involved this year. And I'm going to talk about this more in closed session, give you guys a little more detailed update on the budget. But we have added some additional meetings for GRF this year. Generally in the past, you have your GRF meeting, go over presentations of our departments, and then we have the business plan review with the presidents and treasurers. This year, we're going to have 2 meetings specifically for capital review for the GRF board to review all of the capital projects. The first one's slated for May 24th at 1:30 in the afternoon, and the second one for June 7th at 1:30 in the afternoon. And then following that, on June 14th, we will have a department review for you. And this will be similar like our budget training, but we'll go through the departments that specifically are primarily GRF orientated, such as our operations, finance, general services, any transportation, recreation, all of those that are funded out of primarily out of GRF and involve the facilities that we have in GRF. So we'll do a budgetary review and walk through those presentations by the department heads at those meetings. So again, those are, put them on your calendar, May 24th at 1:30 p.m., June 7th at 1:30 p.m. Those are both to review our capital projects, past and present, and what is being proposed. And then the department review will be on June 14th. That'll set the stage for everything coming at you in a more comprehensive and collective process, so that when the business plan review process for the GRF board and then the GRF Business Planning Committee meets in the 14th of July. So that we'll meet in May, June, get it all packaged up together, make sure we're on the same page, and then make that presentation in July with regards to the overall budget and the overall capital projects. And that is all for my report today. I certainly will have some more in closed session to report to the board, and I'll turn it over to Siobhan.
Thank you, Jeff. Honorable President, members of the board, I have a few announcements this morning for you, please. The first is new resident orientation. Residents new to the village are encouraged to attend a virtual new resident orientation session. These informal sessions are an opportunity for residents to learn about their mutual and talk to a representative who represents their mutual. The next orientation sessions are United, Wednesday, May 12th at 4:30 p.m. and Third Mutual on Wednesday, June 16th at 4:30 p.m. Residents must RSVP by emailing Executive Assistant Becky Jackson at becky.jackson@vmsinc.org. Our Social Services Division, along with Memorial Care Saddleback and the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village, is hosting a free virtual class on age-friendly care with a special emphasis on mobility and falls. This will occur on Thursday, May 20th from 2 to 3 p.m. Dr. David Law will lead an interactive discussion covering the 4Ms framework and best practice interventions for an age-friendly health system. To register and receive the Zoom link, please visit memorialcare.org/balancing act. From our Recreation Department, pools 4 and 6 now allow any two residents, not necessarily from the same household, to swim together per a single reservation. Additionally, the Village Bazaar is returning. This will be held Saturday, June 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Clubhouse 5 outside in the parking lot. Registration starts this Thursday, May 6th via ActiveNet. The booth fee is $10 for an 8 by 10 foot space that comes with one 8-foot table and 2 chairs. Spaces are assigned on a first come, first served basis. For more information, call 949-597-4382 or email recreation@vmsinc.org. And lastly, the next bulky item pickup will be Saturday, May 15th. This is a free opportunity to get rid of your bulky items. Please remember to notify resident services prior to setting out your bulky items. Their number is 949-597-4600. And then please place your items next to the trash enclosure or in the same location you place your trash bins. Set out the items the night before or no later than 7 a.m. on the Saturday of Collection Day. And that concludes my updates. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is the open forum. Grant, do we have any speakers today?
Yes, we do have one speaker. Miss Janet Powers wishes to speak.
Okay. Go ahead. I see she's still muted.
Unmuting myself and starting the video. Sorry, let me start that again. I didn't realize I was muted and not on camera. So, hi, I'm Janet Powers. My husband Chris and I have owned units in Third for over 20 years, and we've lived in Third for about 15 years now. I'm a lawyer. I've practiced community association law for 35 years, and I've represented thousands of community associations. I'm here today to speak briefly about the GRF investments. I spoke to this also at the April 21st GRF Finance Committee meeting. The bottom line is that the GRF investments are not in line with the GRF investment policy, or the Davis-Sterling Act. GRF currently has $19.5 million in bond mutual funds, which are invested with Sageview Investment Advisors. This is basically all of GRF's funds, with the exception of about $3 million in the operating account. Bond funds are not insured by a government agency and have the risk of principal loss, meaning these funds can lose money. Proper investments are treasuries, Ginnie Mae, mortgage bonds, which are backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. These investments, along with CDs, are proper and safe investments consistent with the investment policy and the board's fiduciary duty. Although staff has repeatedly said that the losses are not realized until these investments are sold, the reality is that GRF's portfolio and the net worth of the corporation is down about $429,000 as of March 31st. Those are the facts. GRF lost money. Each GRF director also has a fiduciary duty to protect the GRF funds. I don't know whether the board has obtained a legal opinion from its lawyer, Lori Poole of Adams Sterling. I certainly hope so. Millions of dollars are at stake. But just so that the board is fully informed, here's some direct quotes from the davissterling.com website, which is run by legal counsel Adam Sterling. A board's primary goal should be the preservation of the association's reserves against loss. Boards should never adopt a strategy that emphasizes return over preservation of capital. Avoid risky investments. Generally, account managers like to invest their clients' money in stocks, bond funds, and mutual funds, all of which should be avoided by boards because of the risk. If boards were to restrict brokerage firm investments to CDs, T-bills, and Ginnie Mae securities, then associations' monies are considered secure. In my opinion, the board is currently violating the Davis-Sterling Act at Section 5380, and now the directors of GRF and VMS are on notice that their failure to follow the GRF investment policy and Section 5380 is a breach of your fiduciary duty. You can also have potential personal liability for any losses suffered to principal. We're making the demand that GRF immediately divest itself from the bond funds and move these funds to a risk-free investment, such as treasuries, GMA, or CDs. Thanks for your attention, and if any of you have any questions, we're happy to go into those in more detail, and if you'd like more information, feel free to contact us.
I'm going to make one comment and then I'll have Jim talk, but we thoroughly investigated this. And I will have to say, this is the opinion of Janet Powers, okay? The opinion of a lawyer. And currently at our closed session, I think everybody has information that was between Betty, between Jim and I in regards to this issue. So it is being addressed, and we will address it in closed session. Okay, Jim, do you want to say anything?
Yes, I mean, I just and I understand the intention is to make sure that our investments are safe. We have thoroughly investigated this, and we strongly believe that our investment policy is not only safe but in compliance with Davis-Sterling. Grant, I sent you something earlier today. Did you receive it? And is it available to put on the screen?
Yes, one moment.
Ms. Powers refers to a standard in Davis-Sterling, item 53, code 5380, which is specifically for the deposit of funds received by the management agent. And so once we see actually the written verbiage of 5380, we'll start to understand what it is designed to do and for what purpose. Further, the same website does go into some delineation of what is considered to be safe investments. Okay. And here's what I was wanted people to see. The quote 5380 was under management agent responsibilities. Okay. And I'll read directly from 5380. A managing agent of a common interest development who accepts and receives funds belonging to the association shall deposit those funds that are not placed in the escrow account with a bank, savings account, or credit union into an account under the control of the association into a trust fund account managed by the managing agent in a bank, association, or credit union in the state. All funds deposited by the managing agent in the trust fund shall be kept in this state in a financial institution as defined by 31041. What this actually means is managing agents, generally speaking, will be managing agents for several HOAs. They have a fiduciary duty to separate those and make sure that when they receive actually the HOA fees, they're deposited in one of these institutions. We do not, that is Laguna Woods and GRF, we do not, VMS does not receive funds on behalf of GRF. They are deposited in a GRF account under GRF control, period. All funds are deposited in our accounts, and at no time are the funds in the possession of a VMS account. The only exception is at the time of VMS payroll, when our funds are transferred to the VMS account to meet payroll expenses. All GRF funds are invested in compliance with the standard established in Section 5515 of the Civil Code, which specifically are identified as applying to reserves. The next one, please, Grant. Okay. Now, let's look at 5515 and under the standard in which it is related, which 5515 is under use of reserves. And essentially the guidance is the board shall exercise prudent fiscal management in maintaining the integrity of the reserve account. At no place does it say you cannot invest in treasury funds or a requirement. Now, the further guidance on the Adam Sterling website does go and talk about and say that primary goals for any reserve account should be safety, liquidity, and yield. That is the guidance that we follow when we do this. Now, with that said, we are moving forward to take a hard look at the investments we make to make sure they're in compliance with not only the letter and the spirit of prudent fiscal management, but we are not taking chances with your and our money. What we try to do is the other thing is, I think this was in response, I believe, to what we're showing as a loss or an unrealized loss on our financial statement. It's interesting when you look at our total losses, they are in treasury funds, government treasury funds, most of it. And that's really a market loss. We have no intention of selling, and that market loss is most likely related to the fact that stocks are so hot right now that in order to incentivize people to buy bonds, the market has slightly dropped. It does not risk our money. In fact, when we look at our actual cash yield, anticipated cash yield for the year, it's anticipated to be $250,000 for that same amount of money. So I do understand the concern. And by the way, this is our analysis of it at the moment. We still are going to do further analysis and have a legal opinion based on the knowledge that we have and the comments of Ms. Powers. So we do take this comment very, very seriously. We do want to be in compliance, and we also want to manage the funds prudently. So this is the background of this, and I think the last piece of the puzzle is that we will get an official legal opinion on this in terms of our compliance with data sterling. So I thank Ms. Powers for her comments and keeping us straight, but I do believe we are in full compliance. Thank you.
Okay, questions, okay? Gan, you want to speak on this?
Yeah, I want to mention this. Jim, I'd appreciate if you could send me a copy of the illustrations so that I can scrutinize it and understand all that statements that you made. I'll appreciate sending me a copy of those illustrations. Thank you.
Okay, Joan and then Egon.
I just want to mention that SageView is the investment advisor, but Fidelity is a custodian of discretionary invested funds. And this was established as an account in 2019 by GRF. So we mustn't mistake SageView as an advisor and holding any funds. They do not. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, Egon? I can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Sorry, I had a question on the first page that Grant put up there. Could you put that page up again, please?
Yes, one moment.
Thank you.
Funny, I'd like to make a comment whenever Egon's done also. It's John.
Okay, Egon?
Yeah, I haven't seen the page yet, so I can't comment.
Okay.
That's page 2. Go back to this first one. There you go. Okay, the upper part that's highlighted is what she was referring to, and some question as to whether or not the funds are in the right place. But it does, the unhighlighted part there says insured by the federal government. The question is, are you saying that we do not have funds in this location here that are supposed to be insured by the federal government? In other words, what were you saying about this? And
Yeah, this particular statute refers to funds that you receive directly from residents' HOA funds that go into a temporary deposit. And it refers to managing agents which generally handle more than one HOA. And so its purpose is to make sure that the funds are separated and not commingled with the management agent funds, as well as being deposited in something that is safe and secure and in the trust of the HOA rather than the management agent. We do not have that situation. So this is clearly, and if you look at Article 9 up top, management agent, this is clearly defining the responsibility of managing agents with regard to the funds that they receive directly from residents. It really does not have anything to do with the reserve management. Does that answer your question, Egon?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. John?
Thanks, Bunny. I was involved with the evaluation and the decisions on the use of SageView and the distribution of this money. A couple points I think our residents really need to be kept aware of based on a lot of the comments I think Ms. Powers made. The notion of moving monies from Ginnie Mae's and Treasury bills and perhaps municipal bonds and things of that nature that are government backed to these funds would prevent losses is inaccurate. Meaning, you can go back and look at our financial statements for the last, I'm sure, 10, 20, even 30 years, where we did have a portfolio of individual investments. We held individual Ginnie Mae's, we held individual treasuries. They were marked to market every month and many times did show losses. So the actual translation is getting in these mutual funds that are professionally managed by some of the largest funds managers in the world and are comprised of individual investments. They buy the treasury bonds, they buy the Ginnie Mae's. It's actually safer. It decreases our default risk because they're studying these things every single day and buying a balanced portfolio of things that hopefully give you the highest yield while maintaining the risk. Where I think there are 2 points that are, I guess I want to conclude that by saying that any resident listening should not feel unsafe at all about where our funds are at. They are highly, highly safe, and almost every dollar in those funds is government backed. Where there may be a distinction that's worth looking into is, are we required to only be in investments that are directly government backed? Because that's what that Davis Sterling thing seems to imply. And if that's true, then we might have to shift some of the funds to ones that literally can somehow provide a government backing or go back to individual investments. But that's not going to prevent market risk unless you literally go with a certificate of deposit, which is losing money anytime, interest rates are higher than that certificate of deposit. In other words, our portfolio structure is extremely good and very consistent with what it's been for years. We just found a better way to manage it for higher yield. And I would say if you go back even upwards of 6 months in our financial statements, you'll see there was a significant gain on the holding of these investments that has probably not been offset by this loss. We're probably still well ahead of the game since we moved over to SageView. So there's really nothing at all to be alarmed about, except for the fact that our governing documents did not address Davis Sterling, and perhaps there's a Davis Sterling code section that is in some level of conflict or disagreement with what our governing document says. So that may determine if we need to alter some money management movement. But as far as safety goes, I just need to be very clear that the recommendations coming through that comment were not increasing our safety at any level at all. In my opinion, I think if you study historically or look at the prospectuses of the funds that we're in, I think you'd find agreement that we have done a good job of maintaining safety while giving a little better returns.
Thank you, John. Are there any more comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, John, thank you, John. John was very instrumental in bringing forward our policy in terms of bringing in Sage, an investment advisor. And by the way, our investments are in Fidelity. They're not in Sage. Sage is an investment advisor, and we benefit by having them on top of it, as John said. Whereas we would not be on top of it on a day-to-day basis. They are on top of it. With that said, we are going to make sure that once we have our information as we see it, and we think we're concluded, we are going to get a legal interpretation of this because we do believe we are correct in what we're doing, and we want you to make sure to dot the I's and cross the T's. So again, thanks for the comment. We always welcome comments that keep us on our toes, and we will make sure that our money is safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
We have no
Is there any
further
other
resident comments.
All right, thank you. So the next order of business is the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board by one motion. In the event an item is removed from the consent calendar by members of the board, such items shall be the subject of further discussion and action by the board. So recommendation from the Finance Committee, A, consistent with its statutory obligations, the subcommittee of the board consisting of the treasurer and at least one other board member reviewed and approved the preliminary Golden Rain Foundation financials for the month of March 2021 by the vote ratify that such review be confirmed in this month's board member open session meetings. Are there any objections? All right, hearing none. The consent calendar is approved by unanimous consent. Okay. So unfinished business. Let me look up.
None.
Okay. I had a new agenda this morning, so I think there's nothing under unfinished business for the open meeting. Okay, there will be for the closed meeting. All right, so new business, item number 12. We would like to entertain a motion to revise the GRF Code of Ethics policy. So Joan, please read the resolution.
Okay. Resolution 90-21-XX, Code of Ethics Policy for GRF Directors. Whereas the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation, GRF, has recognized the need to amend the Code of Ethics Policy for GRF Directors, and now therefore be it resolved, May 4th, 2021, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the Code of Ethics Policy for GRF Directors as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolved further that Resolution 90-17-12 is hereby suspended and canceled, and resolved further that a copy of this resolution shall be given to every candidate for the GRF Board of Directors, and resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move we accept the new Code of Ethics.
We have a second? So Maggie seconds it? Okay. Is there any discussion?
I have a correction. Yes,
Yes,
please.
I have a correction.
Yes. Excuse me, I have the floor. I was first.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Just because I made the motion. In the Code of Ethics on page 6 of 12, at the bottom, there is a typo. Under number 5, the last dot should read, to serve impartially the GRF Corporation as well as the Housing Mutual Corporations as represented by the corporate members. Cross out the words, all to serve impartially. They shouldn't be in there. So it says to serve impartially, and then cross out all to serve impartially. It's an accident. It's a typo.
It should just say, to serve impartially the GRF Corporation as well as the Housing Mutuals Corporation as represented by the corporate members, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, again. Can't hear you.
Just said, yeah.
There we go.
Muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh,
now I can hear you.
well, I think Joan is referring to that. I have one more correction on page 10 of 12. The new Code of Ethics and item number 5, third bullet. I think we should strike out the first several words, to serve impartially all, because that has been repeated again. So just delete those words.
Thank you. And you're confirming what Joan said. So
Right, that's the same correction.
Is what you mentioned.
The
President
first
Carpenter,
copy
we
of
also
the-
have a member comment on this item.
Okay. Is there a member comment?
Yes, from Diane Phelps and Richard Rader.
Okay. Okay.
Hi. let's see, I'll put in my video as well. There we go. So these code of ethics, if somebody violates the code of ethics and they're sanctioned, there's no way for the residents to know that that happened. And I wondered if you wanted to build into the code itself that that when members are sanctioned, that the residents be made aware that that happened. That was all.
You don't want to build it into the code of ethics.
I just want to make a comment. I know Dick Rader called me and asked me about that. And my only comment is, after thinking about it thoroughly, is that can we do that legally? That would be my comment, is if a person is sanctioned, they're basically, you would sanction them in a closed board meeting. And then you would send them, the results of that closed board meeting. And I don't know if it's legal for us to publicize that they've been sanctioned. So I do have a question on that, because there's a lot of rules about how people qualify. And I know that there's new rules about, what if the elections qualifications. And I don't know if that's also in violation of the elections violation. So we have to really think about that, and really research and get a legal opinion on that. Okay, Maggie?
Past practice has been to keep that in closed session only. I've never heard of anyone sanctioned being announced publicly or getting out of a closed session matter. And all directors are bound to confidentiality and quiet on any closed session issue. And these are always closed session issues. I've been through several of them, and we have always maintained silence. Thank you.
Okay, so does Dick want to speak to that then?
He does have a comment, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I was going to comment on something else, but now that you raised the issue, the point of the matter is this. It does not matter what we've done in the past. It matters what we want to do in the future. I agree with Bunny. You need to get a legal opinion. But let's think about why this was brought forth. When we elect public servants, we know what their record is, both pro and sometimes con. Our board of directors have fiduciary responsibilities. If they violate a code of conduct and violate corporate rules, if they violate board rules, and they are found guilty according to this new procedure that we have, which is really quite well thought out. Investigations are made by independent investigators. The boards are involved, the compliance department's involved. If somebody's found guilty, I see no reason why the public cannot be the residents cannot be made aware that their board member has acted inappropriately. That is something I think that should be public record, so that when you go to vote for somebody, you know what they've done in the past, both positively and negatively. And of course, the deliberations are made in closed sessions. That's understood. So I go along with what Diane said. I think it's important. If somebody is found guilty, that should become public record so residents can vote appropriately with full knowledge of what these board members are what their record is. The other comment I was going to ask was, it says that the compliance department is going to be involved if there is a violation. So I'm a little bit unclear. It says there will be a hearing. Is that hearing by the compliance department? That's one. Two, where do the boards get involved if the compliance department is going to be running this?
Okay, okay, Bunny, you can speak. The idea of the compliance department is following David Sterling. Okay, so the compliance, department is notified, and they're the ones that notifies the, member of their violation, and they're the ones that schedule the meeting and lead the meeting. And that's all it is. That's the involvement. It's based on David Sterling. Okay, Jim?
Yeah, I just want to comment on one of Dick's assumptions. Unethical behavior may not necessarily be illegal behavior. And so when you publicize what most people would consider to be an unethical behavior, and it could, it covers the gamut, and if found guilty, that would not necessarily be fair to the person who was found guilty of a behavior that was unethical, but not in no way illegal. So I think getting a legal opinion on it is probably the right thing to do. But I can understand everybody's want to have it publicized, but it is also could be very, very private.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Sue?
On the first page, the very first section, A, the font doesn't look right. Could we make the font consistent? The first and last bullets look like they're bold. I know that's minor, but I thought, let's make it look professional.
Joan, did you note that?
Which one are you looking at, Yvonne? Page.
Oh, Sue, yeah.
Sue, I'm sorry. Page 9 of 12, is that the one you're looking at?
No, 5 of 12, the very first paragraph of the entire document. First section called A, Board Responsibilities. The first bullet and the last bullet, the one that starts out attend and the one that starts out be familiar. In my copy, it looks bold. The font is different. It's not a big deal, but if somebody could just check it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, on my copy, everything's the same, so I didn't catch it. Okay, we'll check.
Okay. Okay, are there any other comments? Okay, now at this point in time, if we were to consider the addition to verbiage, we would have to vote on it. Wouldn't we, John? It would have to be amendment to the motion?
No.
No? Okay.
No, this is simply a correction. It was a mistake. They repeated the sentence.
No. Well, I'm talking about what Diane and was suggesting. An addition to the verbiage, basically saying that if a person was found guilty, it can be publicized.
I think that's something we have to talk to our lawyer about first before we make any addition like that. In my opinion, we should approve this code of ethics as it is, and then discuss the other addition of opening it to the public.
Which at that time we can make a modification if it's required. Okay.
Maggie has something.
Maggie? Yeah.
Yes, there has been no motion by any director to add anything or detract anything from this document.
That's right.
So no motion has been made or seconded for an amendment. And so having none, we move with it as it is.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so if there's no further discussion, all those approve? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, all right, the motion has been approved to accept the code of ethics as it is. And just please note, Dick and Diane, that we will address that issue with our lawyer to see if we need to modify it, at another meeting. So thank you. And everybody, I want to thank you for helping us put this together. It's been a long time coming. So the next item is to entertain a motion to establish an Information Technology Steering Advisory Committee. And Joan, would you please read the resolution? So my question is, did you receive that in the mail this morning? I mean, it's not in mail, it was in.
No, I don't have a resolution. May I have the staff report and no resolution.
That's right.
However, it is to establish, the motion would be,
Okay.
I can make a motion.
No, there is a resolution, and that was sent this morning as an addition, to our, okay, so, my question is, Grant, can you go ahead and put that up on the board, the resolution?
Put it on the board.
Screen.
Sure, one moment.
Do I have it? Don't have it.
Does he have it? I mean, I could read it, I thought maybe everybody would.
Why don't you read it?
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Oops, there it is. Okay, I'll read it then. It's right in front of us.
Okay, great.
Resolution 90 okay, sorry. Resolution 90-21XX, Information Technology Advisory Committee appointments. Whereas the formation of the Information Technology Advisory Committee, ITAC, is being considered by the Board of Directors on May 4th, 2021. And whereas the following persons are proposed to serve on the ITAC upon formation of the Advisory Committee. Now therefore be it resolved, May 4th, 2021, the Board of Directors of the corporation hereby appoints and ratifies the following persons to serve on the ITAC upon formation of the Advisory Committee. Information Technology Advisory Committee, ITAC. James Hopkins, Chair. Bunny Carpenter, GRF. Sue Margolis, United. Andre Torn, United. Debbie Dobson, 3rd. And Lynn Jarrett, 3rd. Resolved further that the officers and agents of the corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move we approve this resolution for the Information Technology Advisory Committee appointments.
Do we have a second? Okay, Maggie?
Maggie.
Seconds it. Joan and Yvonne seconds it. Is there any discussion? Okay, Maggie.
I don't remember if we always list the people on the committee on the resolution. Do we just institute the advisory committee, and then at committee, when we make committee adjustments, that's published in a different way? Does this force these people into this committee forever and ever?
No. No, I know your question. We hurriedly put this together because we wanted it on the May agenda so that we could, start meeting before the next board meeting. But what will happen is in May, in June, it will be on the regular committee appointment assignment.
I move an amendment. I move to amend this to eliminate the list of names.
We can't do that, because if you do that, then that means that we have to wait until the next board meeting to approve the members of that committee.
That means that ever after, if we change a member of the committee, that must come before us and we must vote on it in this way, because we are amending this committee every single time, instead of doing what we usually do when we just change members of a committee every 3 years or 2 years or whatever. So I would advise against it. That's why I proposed my amendment.
All right, well.
I second Maggie's amendment. So we vote on the amendment. And if I may say something, just having them on it, we didn't have time, obviously. There wasn't time to just publish the list of names, which we normally would publish separate from the resolution.
Right.
So why don't we, take the names off and publish the names when we do the minutes. The names will be listed on separate, along with a staff report some way.
I agree that would solve the situation. That's what I was looking for, is a solution. Yeah. So
that would be appropriate. We could take
that's
take
the
it off.
amendment. So that's the amendment.
That is the amendment, is to take it off, take the names off of the resolution and put them on the staff report as part of that, so that they will be the first committee.
Okay.
And then their names can be changed as normal.
Okay, Siobhan, do you have any
clear?
comments?
We need to vote on that amendment.
I know.
Okay.
Funny, I think that would work, and then I don't think you even need the resolution at that point, because the purpose of the resolution was simply to appoint the members.
Well, to establish the committee, actually.
Yeah.
I thought it was to establish the committee.
We've been operating under the process of not using a resolution to form these committees. We've just had the recommendation to approve the formation that the board approves.
Okay. That was always a question that I had, whether we needed a resolution, to establish a committee or not. I was not sure. All right.
Then
this is a mixed committee. Wait.
Maggie?
Should I withdraw my amendment? And do we withdraw the resolution?
Yes.
I move to withdraw the
Yes.
resolution.
I second it.
Okay. All right, so.
Now we vote on that.
Now we need a new motion. Okay. The motion.
No,
she just made a motion.
I did. I moved to withdraw the committee, the resolution.
The
resolution. Okay, so that's the amended motion to the motion to establish the information technology. Okay.
No. She withdrew her amendment.
Okay.
And now she's making another motion. She's making another motion to withdraw the resolution because it's not appropriate. That's what she's saying. And I seconded it.
Okay.
That's what we vote on now.
Okay.
Withdraw the resolution.
Is there any objection? If there's no objections, the motion passes. Okay, so we still need to vote on the establishment of the committee.
Okay.
No, we just withdrew that.
No, we didn't.
Well, wait.
Yes, you did.
We withdrew the resolution, but
Yeah.
But we didn't withdraw, the establishment of
right.
the committee.
The recommendation as written in the staff report.
Right.
Right.
So someone.
And that's what I will move to pass.
Okay.
I move that we approve I move that we approve the formation of the Information Technology Advisory Committee in accordance with the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods amended bylaws.
Thank you.
That's
Is there a
just
second?
the recommendation of the staff. Maggie
Right.
seconds it.
Yep. Is there any discussion? So if there's no discussion, and there's no objections, then the motion is approved by unanimous consent. Okay. At this point in time, we can have either take a 5-minute break, or we can go ahead with the committee reports. So
5 minutes, please.
Okay, so 5 minutes, it's 10:35, so how about 10:35, 10:45, let's give us 10 minutes and we'll come back, all right? So thank you.
really apologize. Who led the flag salute?
Yvonne, she has the flag.
Oh, good.
That
Perfect.
worked.
I'm so sorry. Okay, thank you. Is it time?
Exactly 10:45. Is everyone back? Okay, so we'll resume the open meeting. And the next item is the Finance Committee financial reports, and that will be Director Hopkins. And you're muted, Jim.
I'm muted.
There we go.
Story of my life. First, I'd like to report on the actual financial meeting that we had. So it was a good meeting held on April 21st, 2021, which we reviewed the vehicle replacement policy and the comment on the investment policy from Ms. Powers was also looked at. It was raised for the first time there, as she mentioned, and that's what allowed us to be able to start to review the entire situation so that we were adequately prepared today. The other thing that we did talk about was there's been some discussion about a bank relationship change. In other words, changing our bank with the express purpose of actually lowering the fees. The fees amount to today about $1 per month per matter. Any change in those would be somewhat negligible, but at the same time, we really wanted to re-examine it, our relationship, and with the hope and direction of perhaps reducing the fees. However, we're in the process of looking at a change in CFO. As you know, everybody knows Betty is leaving. There's when a change in the banking relationship at this time in an organization the size of VMS, it is the same as changing your bank account and moving your money. The relationship itself involves a lot of software interaction between the two entities, and there's a lot of process that's built upon all of those transactions. So to make a change without a total evaluation of the impact on the finance department would be somewhat irresponsible of the finance committee to make a recommendation to GRF board to make such a change. So we tabled that, and we will continue to consider that whole situation. All right. So that was our meeting. It was a good meeting. Now back to the GRF financial report. Okay. As you can see, and have been looking for the last couple of minutes, through the reporting period on March 31st, 2021, the revenue was $10.3 million compared to 9.9, resulting in a net revenue compared to expenses rather of 9.9 million, resulting in a net revenue of $431,000. Next page, please. Okay, in the financial world, we keep a close eye on our operating portion of our financial results. And the operating fund, which is without depreciation and also without the trust fee revenue and the unrealized investment results, okay, shows a favorable variance of $393,000 at the end of the reporting period. Next, please. The next chart shows the same actuals from the income statement, but it compares to the budget at the end of the period, and it shows that we are bottom line better than budget by $171,000. Next chart, please. Okay. This slide shows some significant variances by category, with the green bars representing favorable variances and the orange bars representing unfavorable variances. As you can see from the top, we are favorable by $628K, which is in employee-related expense. And that's primarily due to the open positions in the security and information services, and also and recruitment is in process. There's also certain janitorial positions remain unfilled while the clubhouses are closed, and fewer hours are budgeted in the transportation due to the elimination of the fixed route on Saturdays. In other operating expense, $100,000 is due to the continued closure of facilities due to COVID, primarily attributable to training, recruitment, safety, staff support, and pest control. The cable programming and franchise fees are favorable due to lower programming fees associated with the fewer premium subscriptions and a one-time credit from NCTC, which is our supplier of programming. As far as the unfavorable gains, unfavorable variances, we talked about for a while the unrealized gain on our investments. And once again, that is a paper loss. When you look at our investments in terms of its cash and cash potential, the prospectus shows that the realization of cash will be somewhere close to $250,000 to $300,000 in a year. So this is a paper loss, and this is actually brought on by an accounting requirement that has actually had a lot of conversation about it over the last 10 years as not being the right way to display the truth to the public. We're not the only ones that have this kind of issue going when it doesn't look good on the surface, but beneath it, it's basically an accounting treatment of something. Again, we are still continuing to look at the legal ramifications of how we record it and the activities. The broadband services are $115K unfavorable due to less ad insertion as a result of the pandemic, and that causes less advertisers to spend less money when residents are staying home. The variance was further lowered by premium channel revenue, resulting from the migration to streaming services. And miscellaneous revenue is unfavorable by $109,000 due to the less fees collected during facility closure. And that includes the photocopy fees, auto decal fees, traffic violation fees, and additional occupant fees. Next page, please. Now what this does is shows our non-assessment revenue and how it breaks out in terms of a pie. The broadband services, as always, is the largest share of the pie at 47%. Our trust facilities fees, which have actually increased from last year, are 39%. And the other revenue portion is 14%. So it just kind of gives you a broad look at where we get our non-assessment revenue. Next page, please. Now, expenses to date of $9.9 million, including depreciation, are shown in this pie chart, with our largest categories being compensation, depreciation, cable programming, insurance, professional fees, and legal fees. It's interesting to note when you combine the employee compensation and outside services, you get 60% of the pie of expenses. And when you look at the rest, programming fees, insurance, utilities, there's not a lot of areas with that, or easy pickings to basically reduce expenses because of the fixed nature of insurance and other fees, as well as utilities and fuel oil. So while we continue to try to reduce our expenditures, as we get better at it, it becomes increasingly more difficult to actually continue to reduce them at the same rate. Next page, please. This is our resale history. And if you look at 2020 and 2019, we had similar resales, a number of resales at the end of March. This year, there's been an uptick. It's 38 more, roughly 20% more than it has been, and that is primarily the where we get impacted with the trust facility fees. So that's why trust facility fees have actually gone up. Our income from that have actually gone up this year. Next slide, please. Now we take a look at our funds and reserve and contingency funds with the adjusted balances as shown. Starting with the first column on the left, the funds have a combined ending balance of $30 million. Included in this total are contributions received this year through assessments, trust facility fees, and interest earnings. The second column shows the work in process of $5.1 million, reflecting the amounts that have already been paid for projects that are not yet complete. With that adjustment, the third column is the result of those work in process adjustments. It shows our adjusted balance in our reserve funds, fund balances. Next chart, please. Well, we compare our adjusted fund balances to the historical balance of the past 5 years on this chart, showing that GRF has averaged about $23 million in reserve and contingency funds. And you can see the mix of that changes over time. But the bottom line is that our reserve funds, or our funds, have increased over time. And so we're continuing to look at that in terms of its adequacies. Next chart, please. Now this chart gives you an idea of where the reserve money is committed. Of the $15.4 million appropriated by the board for various projects and equipment purchases, the remaining encumbrance against our reserves and contingency funds is $11.7 million, primarily in renovation projects. And as part of the budget process, we are looking at those total appropriations, making sure that what we have in budget not only is adequate, but necessary. So the budget process, we're going to be taking a hard look at these as we move forward to make sure that we are funded appropriately moving forward in our funds. And that concludes my report.
You're muted, Bunny.
Thank you, Jim. Do you have anything further to say about the Finance Committee report other than the Treasurer's report? You basically gave that report before you gave the Treasurer's report, so I don't know if you have any further comments.
No, I do not.
All right, thank you. So the next item would be Director Pearlstone for Strategic Planning Committee.
Thank you. Strategic Planning Committee did not meet, but we did have some communication with staff. They're putting together an analysis that we think will be available for review, refreshing the community's memory. Our primary goal was to work on customer experience, customer service. What are we going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? You know, what level of automation do we need to bring in? How do we get better response for our residents? So a lot of good things that'll benefit a lot of people. The first phase of that should be, which is an overview of what that might look like strategically, by the end of the month or early into June. So that's the strategic planning committee report. They needed some time and still need some time to kind of work through what a long-term plan might look like. So going according to plan currently. Should I just jump into the CAC, which is the next one? Okay, so the next report is on the updates to the Community Activity Committee, CAC as we all know it. We had a meeting on April 8th. As a general commentary, I think that the people who are attending these meetings are finding that we're getting excellent communication back and forth between the community, the staff, and the representatives of the committee. Issues regarding golf, while they took some time in the meeting, they went extremely well in terms of a decision that everybody could live with, and then led to further discussions that we've heard feedback are going very, very well, that will ultimately lead to good golf scheduling ongoing. We're expecting a report on that next month. So, or perhaps even next week, we'll get an update, but something firm in the next month or two to make sure that, you know, some of the concerns about how to get golf reservations and how to make it fair and equal that everybody's comfortable with are resolved. And in other words, I just think that's what the purpose of the committee is to make sure everybody's being heard. And that's an example that seems to be supporting that. There was some discussions about some activities such as concerts that have been going on in the community, you know, at various locations. There were some concerns about that got resolved very quickly, and now we're being watched more closely to make sure that nobody gets disturbed with these things, and people are still observing social distancing and masks, et cetera, until such time as those restrictions are lifted, which hopefully we're heading that way. But again, a good outcome of an issue that could have gotten contentious because everybody took the time to listen and have decent communications about it. And so what I would leave that portion of my review with is saying is, do you have a concern, you know, get it to our board, get it to the CAC, and let us hear about it instead of a lot of the, you know, complaining and social media information we see that we don't know exactly what we could do to resolve it because we're not being brought into the loop. So just, we're very open. We want to help. Can't resolve every problem to your satisfaction, but we can certainly hear you and tell you, you know, the best solution that we see as a committee for the entire community. Finally, and maybe most importantly, we've made progress on our fee structure analysis, which I consider a big issue for the long term for the community, and that is trying to find a fee schedule for all the activities that are involved in the community that most will agree is fair, reasonable, but also respects that we have a budget, and we need to try to find ways to not hide money by saying we'll charge residents more for this, that, or the other, or charge them less even, and then just tack it into our assessments. So we're looking at all that, and we came up with a metric that is at least starting to get us all talking in the same language, which is the cost of the participant using each activity per month. And we presented some of that last month to show the difference in cost that it takes to run the golf course versus a clubhouse versus, you know, all the other large activities that go on, the tennis courts, things like that. And we're not looking to make changes based on the cost. Some things cost a lot more than others. That's no surprise. But what we do want to do is have that tracked ongoing to see if the use of that activity justifies the cost. So rather than say, okay, you're costing a lot right now, we're going to penalize you, that's not what's happening. It's the exact opposite. Now you're aware of it. You can find ways to control costs a little better, get more participants involved, make it a better value for our community. Just gives everybody a chance to kind of understand the activities that residents are using and how much they may cost. So we'll be continuing to monitor that. And then our hope is to create a fee schedule that we'll be presenting next week that's very similar to the current fee schedule, but with some structure, meaning that everybody understands the fees they're paying. Will there be an annual cost of living increase so we can lock the fees in year over year over year, not make them arbitrary and penalize one activity over another? And then how does it matter to the budget? In other words, why are we doing it? Well, what is recreation doing to make sure they're controlling costs? And they're looking at that right now. So if we take any increase, you know that it is covering all those costs, and it's not going to end up just being more money in our assessments, which is really the goal, is to manage recreation as closely as we can with self-sufficiency, keep cost sharing as a great benefit for our community, but not just have minimal cost sharing and then big assessment increases. Makes no sense. So that's coming this next week. If you want to attend that meeting, I never have the date right in front, but it's a week from Thursday at 1:30, and public's invited. You'll hear what's going on. Nothing's being finalized without a lot of review, and it'll also come before this board. So you got a lot of time to get your input in there, and we certainly welcome it. And that's what's going on at the CAC.
Thank you, John. This isn't part of a GRF committee, but Maggie, would you like to talk about the committee that was just formed for the golf committee? I mean, this is not GRF sponsored, but, and so I didn't add it, to the agenda, and it's not part of CAC, but it is a, committee that is working with golf and paddle,
Okay.
Okay.
The Greens Committee was formed. It's a revival of what an old committee used to be. And it's just now of the golf facility. And we had a meeting with 10 people there. There were representatives from the four golf clubs. And there were other people that were at-large people, but they didn't show up. So Tom is going to select 2 others to represent us at large. And we went over all the things that we usually went over when we had club meetings, and the pro would show up every month, and we'd have discussions all about the course and what's going on every month, with the pro appearing before each club meeting and explaining things. So we talked about all the facilities on the course, the benches, the ball washers, and so on, and the rakes and everything. Those are all coming back now. And the new reservation system is warming in the hearts of the residents. I tell you, it is so much better than having to be somewhere at 6:30 in the morning, fully dressed and ready just to get a tea time. This has brought us into the new world, the new century. It's the best I've ever experienced in my life, and I'm finally figuring out all the fine points. We're learning how to do the fine points. Every week we come out with a new fine point on the system, and everybody says, oh, goody. So golfers right now are very busy. The course is packed all the time. The number of block times has been reduced, but they're doing just fine. The men's skins game is doing just fine, just calling in for similar tee times and playing as usual and betting all their hearts out and whatever. So it's all going well. It's really, really enlightened the golfers to be able to discuss things again together in a committee. It's really very helpful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Maggie. So the next item is the ad hoc committee and for the Equestrian Center. And the next meeting will be held May 6th, which is a couple days at 1 p.m. We will go over some of the programs that they're going to start when we open up. They have a soft opening now. And if you ever want to go over there, let myself and Yvonne know. She's becoming the real tour director over there. And you can see, a lot of the improvements that have been going on, the landscaping, they're painting the stalls, and Laura is very accommodating. She's the Equestrian Center manager, in being able to give you a little bit of a tour as to what they're doing over there and what the future of it is. At our next meeting, we're basically going to be talking about branding of a border packet and a new services update. And we're always thinking, the ad hoc committee is always thinking of is the Equestrian Center being able to be a revenue source and with events and And so they want to talk about having tours and other things that might help bring in revenue, which will actually help pay, for the equestrian center. So again, the next meeting is May 6th at 1 p.m. Report on landscaping. Director Horton.
Yes, now the mic's on. The last landscape meeting was March 10th, and I have nothing new to report. But our next meeting is May 12th at 1:30. And so I hope everybody joins us at our virtual meeting. Thank you.
All right. Energy Solutions Ad Hoc Committee, Director Stevens.
Did you want Egon to report on M&C first, or we're just a subcommittee of M&C?
I know. Are you going to report on M&C or Egon is going to report on M&C?
Right.
Do you have anything to report on the Energy Solutions Committee?
No, I can go ahead and cover that because we folded it into the M&C committee. Our efforts are just being handled by M&C until we can get some staff report.
Okay.
Staff support, I mean.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll have Egon speak on when his comes up. Okay, I'm sorry. I think I missed Egon, and I apologize. Okay, Egon, you're up, M&C.
Yeah, we had a very full M&C meeting. Okay, so once again, we discussed and are moving to solution on some of the toilet replacements. A proposal was made that was going to cost us about $180,000, but there was some unrealistic things in there, but we will move forward on that. We also got to review the solar pilot light and found that there were at least three areas of issues, that the light was substandard and did not meet what we actually planned to do. And we also reviewed this court resurfacing and the Shepherd's Brook, and we'll discuss more about that at the end. We then had a presentation with Chris Naylor, who told us of the village's efforts to put in charging stations in partnership with the SCE. They came up with 30-some locations throughout the village, most of which will probably not see the light of day because they don't really meet what SCE set out. There was an interesting understanding of what is going on with these charge-ready stations. If we do not get sufficient usage, okay, then GRF will be subject to a monthly fee, okay, and they will have to pay that. And that I think it could end up being something like a couple of $1,000 a year. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's, if memory serves, that's the number that I got. And so we need to look at that. We need to review what our usage is going to be. And but the outcome of the thing was still the two best locations will be near Clubhouse 7 and Clubhouse 2, and possibly conditions might require that we just take them all and put them over in Clubhouse 7 because that would be a more preferable location for public use. We discussed the golf course once again, and we have located a new vendor to take a look at that. And he spoke with us briefly at the meeting. He had to go, and we spoke with him again last week. We had a meeting at driving range, and he was on an iPhone, and we did a FaceTime meeting, and while we looked around the golf course, he made some good recommendations, which we're going to go forward with and take a look at. I think they were much more realistic than the past views of what we were going to do. And we are well aware of the fact that otherwise we will lose the growing season. We got a very brief review that the stage rigging was safe as it currently is. In other words, we were concerned that this thing hanging up there for long since anybody looked at it, we had an engineer come out and say that it isn't safe. Did a tour, and then Guy West gave us an assessment of building E, the damage that we all viewed. And we then had a discussion, or a presentation, I should say, of a Mr. Delphin Ing, who is a resident of. He is also the man in charge of all of the facilities, which includes air filtration facilities, the Kaiser hospitals in Southern California. He made an excellent presentation. The methodologies that they use that are available to clean up the air, and he gave us his conclusion that HEPA filter is the way to go if you want really clean, germ-free air, and that's what they use in the Kaiser hospitals. You can imagine in the intensive care units and things like that, the last thing you want is floating around is some extra germs, and that's how they take care of them at Kaiser. We will discuss that. Important to us because we have included money for Clubhouse 3 to do some sort of COVID control. Then, as I said, I think we left the gate at Garden Center 2 for future work. Well, we made a recommendation forward to the GRF committee for a vote. Both the Shepherd's Crook at Gate 3 and the refit surfacing of the report.
Is that the end of your report? Sometimes
Yes.
your voice fades.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's it from GRF.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Joan, the Media and Communications Committee.
Okay. Media and Communications Committee met on April 19th at 1:30, and Eileen Paulin presented the Media and Communications report. First, we all congratulated Paul Ortiz, who has accepted the position of General Manager of Broadband Services. Ms. Paulin highlighted the projects her department worked on last month, including the VMS Year-End Review video presentation, which I believe you can see on YouTube under Village Television, and it's well worth seeing. She also spoke of the vaccination program, and the third thing was the launch of the biweekly Manor Alterations newsletter. She mentioned that subscriptions have grown steadily for the weekly What's Up in the Village email newsletter. You certainly get a lot of information in that. Mr. Ortiz reported on broadband. He gave a PowerPoint presentation that included cable operations update through 2021, February 2021, an overview of expiring programming contracts, the pay subscription report, and programming legislation report. Ms. Paulin presented certain recommendations from the Broadband Group Cable System Assessment, and their report was discussed with the committee, and these are the recommendations that the Broadband Group has put forth. A succession planning for the tech team. You know, we have an aging tech team. People come around, but to help everybody, but those folks need replacements along the line eventually. She also mentioned that the technicians' fleet needs upgrading on their vehicles. They have older vehicles without air conditioning, and they do a lot of summer work, which is coming up upon us. So that's being investigated by our transportation man here. They mentioned the radio tower needs maintenance, and who's to maintain it will be discussed. They talked about splitting the nodes versus fiber to the curb. We favor fiber to the curb, but we're investigating its expense. A suggested from broadband was content catches from West Coast Internet, a way of catching many programs at once and just presented through the Internet. And the last thing they mentioned was the discussion on the franchise fees to the city, and that's being investigated by this committee. We also talked about the distribution of resident telephone directories, and the revisions have been made and will be presented at our next meeting and then presented again to the board at the, I believe it'll be the June meeting. So our next meeting will be Monday, May 17th at 1:30 p.m. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you. Don, you're next, the Mobile and Vehicles Committee.
Okay, thank you. We had a very detailed report on the ridership, and it's gone down if you compare it with the pre-COVID days. However, the last few weeks is starting to climb up. We had a very detailed report on all of our vehicles, and you may not know, but we have a total of 412 vehicles that we are responsible for, and they include the buses, the trucks, pickups, along with all of the equipment such as forklifts, man lifts, loaders. And one nice thing about all that is that everything is maintained by our own staff. It was explained about the replacement of vehicles. Many people thought it was strictly by the number of miles, and it isn't. When it becomes no longer cost effective to maintain it, it is replaced. We had an interesting bit of information of the two largest costs in that department for the vehicles, and the number one cost is the cost of fuel. Especially, it's gone up, as I'm sure you all know, and of course the cost is going up to us. Another big expense that I've never thought about is the DMV requirements. We spend over $100,000 a year just to DMV for the license plates. I wasn't aware of that. And we also approved the request for the purchase of 4 additional vehicles that are really, really desperate in need. Our next meeting is June 2nd at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. And Yvonne, you're next. That is the report on the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings.
Let's see. Our last meeting was April 21st. We only had one person, and she was found guilty, but we reduced her sentence. And our next meeting is on May 19th at 9 a.m.
Thank you.
And it'll be, okay.
Now, was there anything else you wanted to say?
It will be a virtual meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Disaster Preparedness Task Force, Director Stevens?
The committee has not met since my last report, and so there's nothing new to report. The next meeting will be May 25th at 9:30 a.m. as a virtual meeting. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and it's always the last Tuesday of the month.
Okay. Thank you. The next item is, this is the future agenda items. And I think Joan had mentioned this, the resolution has gone back to media and communications for rewording. And so we will then be looking at the resolution pertaining to the distribution of publications by non-residents of Laguna Woods. So that was set back on 4/6, right, Joan?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I think you skipped one,
Yes.
security and community access. Don?
Yes, thank you. I was going to interrupt and let you know, but thank
I
you.
am so sorry.
No.
Okay, go ahead, Don.
All right, we got started about half an hour late on the meeting day because we had problems. We aren't sure it was either Zoom or with our internet, but anyway, you got started. We had a good meeting. I'll share some of the items with you. We had the report on incidents, and the number of falls by our community are increasing. And along with that, I would like to share that our hospital memorial care does offer a class to residents on how to prevent falls, and I would definitely recommend that. We have had an increase in the number of illegal manor occupations. Most of them are the older adult children of our residents, but along with that increase, we've had an increase in the number of petty thefts. There's no relationship that we can prove, but we think there might be a connection there. We have a more active foot patrol, and because of the increase in petty thefts, our foot patrol is putting more emphasis on going around the carports, and they have seen things that have happened, and they've called the sheriff, and the sheriff has made some arrests. In all cases, the arrest of the people were related to the guests. They go through unlocked cars, and you'd be surprised how many people do not lock their cars. They go through the glove compartments, and things have been taken. We've had 2 bicycle thefts. They were reported, and in both cases, the people were caught and arrested by the Orange County Sheriff's and put in jail. In traffic tickets, we have an increase in speed above 36. 36 miles per hour in our community is pretty extreme, and there's been an increase in speeding. You might remember at the last 2 meetings ago, I mentioned the removing of the stickers on the ID stickers on the front of the car, and staff looked into that, and it was reported that there really hasn't been a problem with when you compare it to the amount of money that we're saving by not putting them on. It's $40,000 a year, and Chief Rojas says that he recommends that we leave it as it is, and he will make another inspection and report back in a couple of months to see if there's any change. Then Gate 12 was discussed regarding the security entrance. That's been discussed for the past couple of years, and we think something's going to be done soon, and we are on top of that, and I may have more detailed stuff to report next month. Our next meeting is June 28th at 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. So now we'll jump to director's comments. Do we have any director comments before we recess? We have no director comments, so we will recess and resume the meeting at 12 o'clock for a closed meeting. I want to thank you, everybody. We'll see you at 12.
Goodbye.